Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about the latest deal from Mike Lindell, MyPillow. Once again, the big box stores have canceled their orders simply because they don't agree with Mike Lindell's politics. They don't like it because he supports President Trump. Well, he's going to pass that savings on to you. No more middleman. And boy, does he have some great deals on the Giza Dream sheets and the Percal bed sheets. Listen to this. Giza Dream queen size, normally $139.98. Your wholesale price, $69.99 when you use promo code Joey. King size, only $79.99. The Percal queen size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale price, $29.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just call 1-800-893-4059 or go to mypillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Free shipping options available. This allotment's not going to last very long. When they're gone, they're gone. mypillow.com. Promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Welcome in on this Wednesday as we are on the downhill side to the weekend. Got a lot to cover today. First, a surprise file dump came ahead of an expected House-wide vote to formalize the House Oversight Committee's Epstein inquiry. That vote is expected sometime today. Meanwhile, late yesterday afternoon, the committee released 34,000 pages of documents tied to Jeffrey Epstein. We have some reading to do. Joe Biden's administration was obsessed with policies designed to reduce the income inequality. But now that all the data is in for the 4 years of the Biden-Harris administration, the data shows that Joe Biden actually widened the gap between the rich and the poor, but in favor of the rich. Senator Joni Ernst says she'll be retiring next year, and within hours, we have the first candidate making an announcement. We have the latest on the race for the GOP to maintain a majority in the U.S. Senate. South Carolina passed a law that says boys use the boys' restroom, girls use the girls' restroom. Just common sense, right? But the decision of a rogue appeals court has that law headed to the U.S. Supreme Court for a final decision. We'll be watching that one as well.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
So late yesterday afternoon, while most Americans were winding down, the House Oversight Committee quietly dropped a bombshell. Nearly 34,000 pages of documents tied to Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Now, 34,000 pages. DOJ interviews, internal memos, even videos from inside Epstein's Palm Beach mansion, we're told. But why? Why now? Why suddenly drop this mountain of documents? Well, because the pressure's finally boiling over in Washington. Americans are sick of the cover-up, the secrecy, the sense that powerful people have been shielded for years while Epstein's victims never saw true justice. And later today, the full House is expected to hold a vote to formalize the Oversight Committee's Epstein inquiry, a largely symbolic move, but one that underscores the demand for accountability. It's still too early to know what's exactly in these 34,000 pages of documents, as everyone is still sifting through the documents. The release includes DOJ interviews with Ghislaine Maxwell, who, of course, is serving a prison sentence for sex trafficking minors. It includes videos that reportedly show the inside of Epstein's Palm Beach estate, the infamous location where so many crimes allegedly took place. Chairman James Comer of Kentucky says that this is the most thorough investigation into Epstein and Maxwell to date. And here's the kicker. It's bipartisan, according to Comer. Comer subpoenaed the DOJ back in August, and the committee voted together across party lines to demand the files. That doesn't happen every day. Comer says more documents are on the way, and his panel has already subpoenaed not just DOJ brass like Bill Barr and Loretta Lynch, but also James Comey and, yes, Bill and Hillary Clinton. Let me repeat that. The Clintons are now officially on the subpoena list. We'll see if they try to fight it or if they show up to testify. But don't think for a second that politics isn't driving the timing here. Representatives Thomas Massey, a Republican from Kentucky, and Ro Khanna, a Democrat from California, have been working together on their own bill to force DOJ transparency. They were close to securing the majority of signatures needed on what's called a discharge petition. That's a rare maneuver that bypasses party leadership and forces a vote of the full House. Massey even told Fox News he thought they had hit that threshold by the end of the week. We'll see. So what does Comer do? He beats them to the punch. He releases the files himself. He says the committee is way ahead of Massey and Khanna's effort. In other words, we're in charge here, not you. It's classic Washington maneuvering. Lawmakers don't want to be outflanked even when they agree on the issue. It's that party politics or internal politics among the House leadership. Now, here's where it gets a little bit tricky. Democrats on the committee are already saying 97% of these documents were technically already public. They claim this is more show than substance, which that was my first thought. Are we really getting anything here? Or is this just a show? Are we going to find out something in these 34,000 documents that we haven't known before? We'll see. Again, it's going to take some people a while to read it. But let's be honest here. Even if a lot of this information was out there in some dusty archive or behind a paywall, having it organized, released, and put in front of the American people may be a game changer. We'll see. Again, we got to see it. And it was just released late, early evening last night. So not a lot of people have had a chance to really review it. Now, I'm sure there's some people who probably were up all night reading. But 34,000 documents, that's going to take a while. Let's face it here. Epstein's story has always been kind of clouded in secrecy anyway, right? The people want to know who flew on those planes, who visited those islands, who looked the other way. The list of names tied to Epstein, whether real or rumored, reads like a who's who of politics, finance, and Hollywood. And for years, we've been told, sorry, nothing to see here, move along. Well, now at least we're beginning to see the receipts. We'll see. This isn't just some tabloid fodder. This is about whether America has one set of rules for the elites and another for everyone else, and we're about to find out for sure. Think about it. Epstein was a convicted sex offender, and yet after his slap on the wrist in Florida, he continued to move in the highest circles of power. He hosted presidents. He courted royalty. He had billionaires, academics, and celebrities parading through his properties. It's just amazing what the guy was able to do. And honestly, I never really understood where he made his money. I never understood exactly what he did other than he was a business financier. When he finally landed back in jail, what happened? He died in a cell under mysterious circumstances. Suicide, they told us. Cameras malfunctioned. Guards fell asleep, and the American people were just supposed to nod along and go along with it. Yeah, we accept that. It doesn't add up, though, does it? It never did add up. And what's these documents matter? Why? They're a chance, however slim, to shine a little light on the system that somehow protected Epstein all those years and maybe even exposed the people who enabled him. I don't know. I'm still not convinced that we're ever going to know the true story because we're not supposed to know the true story. Folks, let's not forget, this comes at a time when trust in our institutions is at rock bottom. The FBI, the DOJ, the intelligence community, people don't believe them anymore. They've been caught lying, covering up, and spinning too many times. So when the DOJ hoards Epstein documents, when courts seal the files, when names are redacted, it just feeds a suspicion, doesn't it? It feeds a suspicion that the powerful are being shielded once again, that we'll never know the truth, because the powerful and the rich don't want us to know the truth. It's going to hurt too many people. That's why Comer is right to push this out. That's why Massey and Khanna are right to demand transparency, and that's why this fight, I think, is probably just getting started. We'll see. Because if you think this ends with 34,000 pages, I think you're going to have to think again. The Oversight Committee still has subpoenas pending. More files are coming. And the American people aren't going to let this fade away quietly, I don't think. And, of course, you got the whole idea of the Clintons. What Do they know? What will they say? Will they testify? Will we ever see Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton in a committee meeting? Will they abide by the subpoena, and will they show up and testify? We'll see. So here's the bottom line, though, I think. The Epstein scandal isn't just about one predator and his accomplice. It's about the rot in a system that allowed them to operate in plain sight. It's about whether justice applies equally to the elite and the ordinary. And it's about whether Congress has the courage to pull back the curtain on something the ruling class would rather keep buried. The rich and famous don't want it to come out. We do. James Comer says his committee is leading the most thorough Epstein investigation to date. We'll see. Because Americans don't just want paperwork. They don't want just 34,000 pages of documents. We want answers. We want accountability. And yes, we want names. We want someone to name names so that we can once and for all know exactly who was involved. America is in a health crisis, and by America, not just strangers across the country. It's personal. Me, you, friends, and family. And a major cause? Excess weight. Joey Hudson here. The solution isn't expensive shots like Ozempic. It's learning how to eat and think about food differently, and that's what PhD Weight Loss does. Their clients lose up to a third of their body weight. No drugs, just real food, behavioral coaching, and proven science to turn your body into a fat-burning machine. Sure, you could spend up to $20,000 a year on injections that burn muscle, not fat, and come with risks like pancreatitis or bowel blockages, only to gain it all back. PhD helps your body naturally produce weight loss hormones like GLP-1s. No shortcuts, just results that last. Already on Ozempic? Dr. Ashley Lucas and her team will help you safely transition off and keep losing weight. Let's make America healthy again. Call 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900 or visit myphdweightloss.com. Some news out of Iowa yesterday. Congresswoman Ashley Hinson announced that she'll be running for the U.S. Senate seat to succeed retiring Republican Senator Joni Ernst, who just announced that she will not be seeking re-election. Now, Hinson isn't just throwing her name out there. She's coming in with a clear message. She says, I'm running to be President Trump's top ally in the United States Senate. Now, that's how you do it. You're bold when you step out like this. Hinson made the announcement on a local Iowa radio show. She's going straight to the grassroots. She's wasting no time. She's kicking off a 99 county tour this weekend, showing voters that she's ready to work every inch of the state. She's a former TV anchor turned two-term congresswoman representing Iowa's 2nd District, and she's become a rising conservative star. Pro-border security, pro-family, pro-agriculture, and ready to take on the D.C. swamp. Now, let's talk about Senator Joni Ernst, who just announced she won't be seeking re-election in 2026. There'd been some rumors that maybe she wouldn't, but I'm not sure anyone ever just really thought that she would not run. She served Iowa well, first female combat veteran in the Senate. She's known for her make 'em squeal ads and a consistent fighter against waste and fraud. We wish her well as she returns home to her family. But this open seat, this is a golden opportunity to elect another conservative warrior, and Hinson stepping up to the plate could be just that person. Meanwhile, Democrats are already circling like vultures. They see Iowa as a chance to flip a seat. We've got 4 Dems in the race so far, including a Paralympian, a school board chair, and some state-level folks no one outside of Des Moines has ever heard of. The Senate Majority PAC, which is basically Chuck Schumer's piggy bank, is drooling over the chance to expand the map. They need some seats, and they're looking at Iowa as maybe a chance. Good luck with that, though. Trump won Iowa by 13 points last time around. So let's not kid ourselves. 2026 is going to be a slugfest. Democrats are playing offense in states like Georgia, Michigan, New Hampshire, but we've got momentum as well. We flipped the Senate red in 2024. We've got the White House back under Trump. Now we've got candidates like Ashley Hinson ready to carry the conservative torch into the next decade, and I think she'll do it well. So the question is, are you ready to fight for it? Because the Democrats are throwing everything they have at us, and we need to meet them head on with strong candidates, bold ideas, unshakable support for America First values, and candidates who will support President Donald Trump and his America First agenda. Ashley Hinson is in. Trump's got her back. And if Iowa delivers again, it'll be another nail in the coffin of the Biden-era liberalism. Now, on to the text line. Faye writes, good morning, Joey. Today starts, this was yesterday, actually. Yeah, hands off cell phones when driving. So when will the big screens go dark in the new vehicles? I see no difference between a cell phone screen and a big screen and all the sounds in the new vehicles. Faye's right. There's some of the new vehicles, there's some like small TVs in there. She says there aren't enough patrol to investigate wrecks, so when will they find time to watch for cell phones in hands? Don't get me wrong, cell phone usage while driving is dangerous, but so is watching a screen even if you're not holding it. My 2 cents worth. Thank you, Faye. Appreciate that. Paul says, I'll bet that hat that he snatched will be a big reminder through the years, better than any lesson he may have learned. He's talking about the CEO, of course, from Poland, who got caught snatching the cap at the U.S. Open tennis match. He has egg all over his face, being portrayed as a big bully taking a kid's cap, an autographed cap that the kid was standing there waiting for. Jennifer writes, hey, Joey, voter ID, voter ID, voter ID. Preach it till you wear it out. Branded in everybody's head. America's obviously for it, except for wayward Democrats, but still it needs to be said and explained over and over, like conservatives would not stop talking for 4 years about vast numbers of illegals crossing our borders daily. And that abomination became a number one voter issue in 2024. You're right, Jennifer. We do need to talk about voter ID, voter ID, voter ID, because we have to push that through. If our elections are ever going to be secure again, we have to know who's voting. We have to know who's registering to vote. Appreciate that text. President Trump waved off social media rumors about his demise yesterday, telling reporters at the Oval Office that he was very active over Labor Day weekend and dismissing the morbid speculation as simply fake news. The bad faith scuttlebutt about President Trump's health kicked off after the White House released a schedule showing no public events for the president over Labor Day weekend, prompting some grim hashtags like hashtag Trump is dead, hashtag where is Trump. They started to trend on X. President Trump's thin holiday weekend schedule was announced 4 days after his last public appearance at a cabinet meeting last Tuesday. Trump mused to reporters of the conspiracy theory. After he was asked about it, he said, I didn't do anything for 2 days, and they said there must be something wrong with him. I was very active over the weekend, he said. I went out to visit some people at the club that I own pretty nearby on the Potomac River. No, I've been very active, actually. Photos showed the president dressed in golf attire on Saturday, complete with his signature red MAGA hat as he headed to Trump National Golf Club in Virginia with his granddaughter, Kai Trump, who's 18 years old. The president, who took the opportunity to take a swipe at his 82-year-old predecessor, former President Joe Biden, said, you wouldn't see Biden, and nobody ever said there was ever anything wrong with him. And he's right. There were times there that we didn't hear or see Joe Biden for days on end, and we didn't get this type of speculation. He said, and we know he wasn't in the greatest of shape. We do know that. Rumors of President Trump's ill health have been stoked in recent months by photos appearing to show bruises on his hands and swollen legs. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt revealed that Trump has a benign and common condition called chronic vascular insufficiency, or CVI, the result of leg veins having difficulty sending blood back to the heart. She attributed the bruised hands to frequent hand shaking, and the use of aspirin. This past weekend, speaking of President Trump and the White House, a bizarre video started circulating over the weekend as well, supposedly showing objects, maybe even plastic bags, being tossed from a White House window. Have you seen them? I saw them several times before I even realized what they were. Twitter and TikTok lit up with wild conspiracy theories on that too. People claimed that it was from the Lincoln bedroom, speculating everything from a frustrated staffer to secret dump runs. Yesterday, President Trump put that nonsense to rest as well. You know, he spent part of yesterday's little meeting there in the Oval Office with the news media, just kind of straightening out some of these odd conspiracy theories. This was a packed press conference. Fox News' Peter Doocy You could see him during the news conference. He showed President Trump the clip on his telephone. You saw Ducey walk over to the president, hold his phone up, and the president's looking at it. President Trump kind of watches. He chuckles, and he says, no, that's probably AI generated. Then he throws in some facts. He said, you can't open the windows. They're sealed. They're bulletproof. Each one weighs about 600 pounds. He's talking about the windows in the White House, of course, because, again, this video, it looks like someone's throwing stuff out of one of the upper stories of the White House. And he's right, by the way. Those windows are like fortress grade. You can't just pop one open like you're airing out grandma's kitchen. Now, even Melania, the first lady, apparently told President Trump she wished she could crack a window open for some fresh air. No dice. The White House is sealed tight, folks. They're throwing a plastic bag out of one of those windows, and you'd need a hydraulic lift and a security clearance to do that. Now, here's the kicker. Trump used the moment to hit a much bigger point, AI disinformation. He said, one of the problems we have with AI is both good and it's bad. If something happens, just blame AI, the president said. And you know what? He's not wrong. We're entering a world where people believe anything they see online, even if it's completely fabricated. Now, I have to admit, whoever made this video did a pretty good job, because it looks just like somebody is throwing something out of one of the windows on one of the upper stories of the White House. It looks very real. But you have to understand that in these days, you can have a video of yourself. It looks just like you, sounds just like you. And nobody would know that it's not you except you. Folks, again, this is where we are. Reality is under attack. And President Trump is calling it out. So let the media obsess over blurry videos and conspiracy theories. Meanwhile, the president's dealing with the real issues like border security, the economy, and yes, even the dangers of deep fakes. Stay sharp out there. And don't believe everything your phone shows you. Don't believe everything you see on TikTok, on YouTube, or on Facebook, especially if it looks like garbage being flung from a 600-pound bulletproof window at the White House. So let's start with something that every American family knows in their gut. During President Donald Trump's first term, you were better off, weren't you? Financially, you were doing better. Your paycheck went further. The economy worked for the middle class. And under Joe Biden, well, the numbers are finally in, and they prove exactly what you've been feeling every time you check your grocery bill or swipe your debit card at the gas pump. The latest analysis of Census Bureau data, adjusted for inflation, shows that median real household income rose by more than $6,400 under Donald Trump. Compare that with Biden's 4 years, incomes barely budged, just a measly $550 increase. That's not a raise. That's just treading water. And for a lot of families, it felt more like we were drowning. So let's break it down. During Trump's first 3 years, before COVID lockdown slammed the brakes on the economy in 2020, median income jumped by almost $8,000. The middle class was surging, jobs were plentiful, wages were rising, and inflation was manageable. Even after the pandemic hit, households were still in far better shape than they would have been under Joe Biden. That is the Trump economy. Higher take-home pay, more opportunity, more security. And remember, these figures are before taxes. When you add in Trump's 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which delivered an average tax cut of about $1,600 for 80% of American families, the actual boost in after-tax income during Trump's term was closer to $8,000. $8,000 in your pocket. That's maybe a new car. That's braces for your kids. That's paying down the credit card. That's the middle class actually moving up. Now, compare that with Joe Biden's 4 years. Median incomes inched up by $550 total. $550. That's it. And while Biden kept telling us that he was focused on equity and reducing inequality, the income cutoff for families in the bottom 25%, the level needed to climb out of the lowest bracket, actually went down. That means lower income families, on average, lost purchasing power under Joe Biden. Their dollars bought less. Inflation ate up every raise, every benefit, every government handout. We're talking about a 22% cumulative price hike on basics like food, gas, rent. The so-called middle class tax cut, Biden promised, it never materialized. Instead, inflation became a hidden tax on everyone, the most regressive tax of all. So when Democrats claim that Trump's tax and budget policies only help the rich, the data shreds that talking point completely. Under Donald Trump, in his first term, the poorest 25% of Americans saw their purchasing power rise by 10%. Under Joe Biden, it fell miserably. Now, here's the first policy lesson. Inflation is devastating, especially for working families. You can't paper over inflation with stimulus checks or welfare benefits. Joe Biden tried. Trillions in spending, massive subsidy, free money giveaways. But when every dollar buys less bread, less milk, less gas, you're not ahead, you're behind. And families knew it. They didn't need Census Bureau spreadsheets to tell them that their paychecks weren't stretching. They could see it on the shelves at Walmart and wherever they shop. Second lesson, Trump's 2017 tax policies, constantly ridiculed by the media as tax cuts for the rich, actually helped everyone at all economic levels, at all income levels. Jobs grew. We saw wages rise. And here's a fact Democrats don't like to talk about. The share of the income tax burden paid by the richest Americans actually went up after Trump's tax cuts. The wealthy paid more, not less. But the Democrats don't want you to think that. They don't want you to believe that. That's the irony. Joe Biden raised taxes and regulation in the names of fairness, and the middle class fell behind. Trump tax cuts, his streamlined rules, unleashed American energy. Everybody moved up because of those policies. Now, imagine what those Trump-era gains would have looked like if COVID hadn't blindsided the world in 2020. Without lockdowns, without blue state governors shuttering businesses and keeping kids out of school, that $6,400 median income bump under Trump might have been $10,000 or more. The good news is we're going to get a chance to do a redo. We're going to get a chance to see this happen again. The Trump economy then was on fire. Biden inherited a recovery already in motion, and he squandered it with reckless spending, Green New Deal gimmicks, and a war on domestic energy. So what's the takeaway here? It's simple. When you cut taxes, when you unleash energy, and you let businesses grow, the middle class thrives. When you regulate, redistribute, and spend like crazy, the middle class actually shrinks. The numbers don't lie. Trump lifted income across the board. Biden shrank it. It's just plain and simple. And this isn't just about economics. It's about the American dream. It's about whether working families can still believe that if you work hard, you play by the rules, and you raise your kids right, you're going to move up in life. Under Trump, that dream was alive. Under Joe Biden, it flatlined. Now, here's the good news. Congress has already extended Trump's lower tax rates. And if the White House keeps pushing pro-growth policies, we could see that across-the-board rise in income again. Families could get that breathing room back. But if we fall back into the Biden playbook, endless spending, higher taxes, soft on energy policies, then we'll be right back where we were, stagnant paychecks, rising costs, widening inequality. But we're not going there, are we? Because Donald Trump's not going to let us go there. The American people, we recognize what that mistake was, and we want to keep moving up. So here's the bottom line. Trump delivered real income growth for the middle class. Biden delivered inflation, stagnation, and broken promises. For all the talk about equity and fairness, Biden left the working poor and the middle class worse off than he found them. Trump, ridiculed as a billionaire who only cared about the rich, actually gave regular Americans their best years in a generation. Numbers don't lie, paychecks don't lie, and the American people remember the difference every time they go to the store, every time they buy groceries, every time they fill up their cars, every time they go on vacation this summer. They saw the difference, and we're just in the first 6 months of a new Trump era. That's why when it comes to the economy, Trump's record isn't just stronger. It's proof that common sense conservative policies work. Joe Biden's record, it's proof that progressive ideology doesn't put food on the table. In fact, it will take it away. The facts are in. Trump raised incomes, Biden shrank them, and the choice for America's future couldn't be clearer under Trump 2.0. Are you ready? Are you feeling it already? Are you hopeful that we're going to get back to where we were in the first Trump administration? That we're going to see incomes rising, that with the renewal of the tax Trump tax cuts, we're going to see households on the move once again. Things are going to get more affordable. Americans are going to thrive. Do you agree? Text me, email me, joe@joeyhudson.com. Leave me a quick message on the MyPillow message line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Always use promo code Joey when you go to MyPillow.com or call 800-893-4059. You'll get the very best price of anything that Mike Lindell has to offer. For example, the standard MyPillow is only $19.98 when you use promo code Joey. So go to MyPillow.com, use promo code Joey. Your comments are welcome on the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Firmin Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Firmin Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Firmin Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Firmin, Matthew Firmin. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Firmin Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Firmin Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Firmin Ford online at firminford.com, firminford.com. Folks, we have a showdown brewing in the U.S. Supreme Court that involves a case from right here in South Carolina, one that goes right to the heart of common sense, parental rights, and the question of whether ideology gets to trump biological reality in our schools. So here's the deal. South Carolina passed a law that says boys use boys' restrooms, girls use girls' restrooms. It's just that simple, right? Basic, straightforward, common sense. It protects privacy, it protects dignity, and it keeps school districts from being caught in the middle of a national culture war. But an appeals court, the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, which, by the way, used to be a strong conservative court, now probably is worse than the Ninth Circuit. The appeals court has swooped in earlier this month and carved out an exception. They said that one student in Berkeley County, South Carolina, a female who identifies as male, must be allowed to use the boys' restroom. Not every student, not a sweeping decision striking down the law, just a one-off exemption for this single case. And now our state is fighting back. Attorney General Alan Wilson filed an emergency application with the Supreme Court asking Chief Justice John Roberts to step in, block the order, and let South Carolina's law stand. Here's what the Attorney General said. This is judicial activism at its worst, and we're fighting back. South Carolina will not stand by while ideology is put ahead of children's safety. Superintendent of Education, Ellen Weaver, put it even plainer when she said, our law is grounded in biological reality and protects the privacy, safety, and dignity of every child. No activist court should force schools to abandon common sense. And she's right. That's exactly what this is about, common sense. You don't need a PhD in gender theory to understand this. You don't need activist judges rewriting definitions of sex. You just need to know that kids deserve safe, private spaces in their schools. Now, here's where it gets a little interesting. South Carolina is pointing to recent Supreme Court decisions back in June, United States versus Skermeti. That case upheld Tennessee's law banning transgender medical interventions for minors, things like puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones. The Biden administration argued that those bans should face strict scrutiny, the toughest constitutional test. The Supreme Court said, nope, not going to do it. By a 6-3 vote, the justices said Tennessee's law only needed to pass rational basis review. That's the lowest bar. Basically, if the state can give any reasonable explanation for the law, it's constitutional. And that's how it should be. That's a big deal because it suggests the high court is moving away from the idea that transgender claims automatically override state laws. And that's exactly what South Carolina is arguing here. Our bathroom law is rational. It's rooted in biological reality, and it should be presumed constitutional. The problem? The Fourth Circuit based its ruling not on Scarametti, but on an older case, Grimm versus Gloucester County, where the same appeals court said a Virginia school board violated Title IX by not letting a transgender identifying student use the boys' restroom. Now, the Supreme Court declined to review Grimm back in 2021, but now, after Scarametti, South Carolina says Grimm is a discredited outlier opinion, and they're right. Most circuits, the 6th, the 9th, the 10th, and the 11th, have upheld single-sex bathroom policies. Only the 4th and the 7th cling to this outlier logic. Now, let's pause. Why does this matter for you and your kids? Because this is about more than one bathroom in Berkeley County, South Carolina. This is about whether activist courts get to strip away state laws, voter-backed laws, and common sense protections for kids in favor of ideology. If this exemption stands, it won't stop with one student. It'll be used as a precedent to force schools all across the Fourth Circuit, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, Maryland, to abandon single-sex bathroom rules. This is why this is such a big deal. And let's be honest, this isn't about compassion. This is about control. The left wants to use the courts to impose its cultural vision on every classroom in America. And their playbook is pretty simple. They're going to try to win in the courts what they can't win at the ballot box. And don't miss the timing here. The Supreme Court is already preparing to hear two massive cases this fall. Sometime in October when they go back in session, West Virginia versus BPJ and Little versus Hecox. Both deal with the same issue, but in sports. Should males who identify as female be allowed to compete against girls in school athletics? They're going to be two big decisions. These cases will set national precedent on Title IX, the Equal Protection Clause, and how much say states really have when it comes to protecting women's sports and privacy in education. So South Carolina is stepping into the fray at exactly the right moment, saying, don't let one appeals court invent exceptions while the Supreme Court is about to settle the law. Chief Justice Roberts has already ordered the students' lawyers to file a response by September the 5th. That means the justices could act quickly, either granting South Carolina's request and blocking the injunction or letting it stand while the broader litigation continues, which I think is what they probably will do. And here's the thing. Based on the court's recent rulings, South Carolina's chances are strong. Scarametti showed the majority is skeptical of treating transgender claims as special constitutional rights. The justices could easily say, until we settle this in the upcoming sports cases, states like South Carolina get to enforce their laws, period. That's what the legislature intended. That's what should happen. And it's real simple here. This isn't about cruelty. It's about reality. It's about common sense. Boys are boys, girls are girls. Our schools should reflect that. Our laws should reflect that, and our courts should respect that. What South Carolina is saying is very simple. Privacy matters. Safety matters. Biological truth matters. No activist judge should get to override those things in the name of ideology. So here's the bottom line. South Carolina drew a line in the sand. We said, not in our schools. And now the Supreme Court will decide whether that line holds. And I'll tell you what. After years of watching courts twist the Title IX beyond recognition, after seeing girls lose their sports and kids lose their privacy, it's about time we had this fight. It's about time that somebody stands up. Because if we don't stand firm here, if we don't protect our kids now, then pretty soon the question won't be just about bathrooms. It'll be about every corner of our schools, from locker rooms to classrooms to athletics. This is about more than one case. This is about whether America is still willing to defend common sense. And in South Carolina, we're saying yes. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Firmin Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.